All right, shalom, 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 shalom. And first and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Barachak Badash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations be unto the Akim out here pushing this gospel in truth and in sincerity. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. And, through the grace and mercy of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, man, we out here another week, to continue to preach this gospel, this truth, right? And part of that gospel, part of this truth, right, is our enemy, our nemesis, right, is being brought down, right? Starting with who he is, right, being revealed unto the world, right, which a lot of information has been coming out, a lot lately, especially around this the Epstein files and whatnot. Hey, the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Shai is revealing everything about this damn devil, man, and those whom the average person here in America, right, voted to be their president, right, or their senator or their mayor or so on and so forth, right. It's ultimately revealing that the whole government system, right, and those who are in power is ultimately wicked, But I'll start right here. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come," right? And that day is ultimately talking about the second coming of Yahweh Shai. When Yahweh Shai is going to come with power and great glory with that army, right? Those chariots, right? Who the world ignorantly call, what the world ignorantly calls, UFOs, right? Or UAPs or whatever. We know that them to be the chariots of Israel, right? And that's what Yahweh Shai is going to be coming on, right? Ezra, right? In the second Ezra, the 13th chapter, right? Ezra ultimately saw a vision of Yahweh Shai coming, right? And he said the chariot that Yahweh Shai was going to fly upon was, likened unto a mountain, right? That was so big, right, that he couldn't see the ends of it, and not only that, right, you read in Jude, if I'm not mistaken, right, it talks about, Yahweh Shai coming with his tens of thousands, man, talking about again, right, Yahweh Shai coming in that power and great glory, right? Yeah, you always watch these movies, right, of these kings, right, when they go to war, they go to, to travel and whatnot, they're always coming with thousands and thousands of their best soldiers, thousands and thousands of their best soldiers, man. Hey, well, Yahweh Shai, man, and those entrances are grand, right? When the kings show up, man, the entrance is grand. Hey, well, Yahweh Shai is finna have the best entrance, man. The most grandest entrance, man. When he's coming with on that fathership, right, with that army, right? That's that day that it's talking about, right? It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first," which, we're in the result of us falling away, man. Right? 70 AD, right? Us going into captivity, all the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, right? Starting at verse 16 on down, Verse 15 was the warning, but all the curses of verse 16 all the way down to 68, all those curses came upon us, man. We are in currently the result of us falling away. Right, so that had already taken place, right? But it says what? It says what? "And the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition," right? That man of sin, right? Which we know to be Esau Edom, right? Esau Edom, which when you go to Malachi 1 and 4, it tells you, "Whereas Edom, right, saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places," which is going back to the Renaissance, right? Renaissance meaning the rebirth, right? It says, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness," right? "The people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever." So we know the wicked, right? That man of sin, the son of perdition, goes back to Esau Edom, right, which we know today to be the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right? And how do we know this, right? Job 9 and verse 24, right? As it says right here, it says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? Which we know that the wicked is Esau, Edom, right? And the earth is given into their hand, right? Going back to Genesis, the 27th chapter, that, you know, Esau's blessing was the fatness of the earth, right? As well as what? The sword, right? Esau, Edom, right? He's the one that's in control of the earth today, right? It says he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not where and who is he, right? And again, we have to ask ourselves, right? We got to be, you can't lie to yourself. You got to be honest. Who's ruling the world as of right now? What nation of people are ruling the world as of right now? What race of people are ruling the world as of right now? And it's the self-proclaimed so-called white folks, man. They run everything, right? We see that, right? Who owns the social media, right? So-called white folks. Who owns the porn industry, right? A major multi-billion-dollar industry. Who runs that shit? The Edomites, right? Which more specifically, right, it's the Amalekites, right, which are ultimately they're Edomites nonetheless, but who owns most of these buildings, right? Who owns the banks, right? The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, right? They're Edomites, man. They own and run everything in this world, man. Let me turn the camera so we ain't got the glare. They run everything, man. The Edomites run and own everything. So we can honestly say that the Edomites are the ones that are the wicked, right? The Edomites are the so-called white folks, and the white folks run the world, and the so-called white folks are the ones that are the wicked, and they're the ones that are being revealed, right? Hence the Epstein files, right? All those coming out, right? They're saying they got pictures of Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, who a lot of you people, right, especially you MAGA people, right, y'all voted this damn devil into presidency, man. And he's done nothing but come against his own people, ruin it all for all of you, man. Right, he's being revealed, right? Esau Edom is being revealed at all-time high. A lot of Kill Gates. A lot of these higher ups, are a part of, are a part of that whole Jeffrey Epstein fucking, bullshit that's going on, man. And this is why, right, they're ultimately having this issue with Venezuela. I mean, yeah, first and foremost, right, we understand that Esau Edom, pursuing the Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, right, he likes to go into places and top of those governments, set up his own government and steal the resources, which is what he's doing there as well, and he's also hurting China and Russia, in the process, right? But at the same time, right, we understand that this damn devil is ultimately trying to cause a distraction. You know what I mean? Because all this information is coming out, but everybody's focused on, Venezuela, them killing, those innocent people on those boats, what they consider drug boats, and so on and so forth, right? Esau's trying to create a distraction. He's trying to, send in ICE and so on and so forth, keep you people distracted on that, while all this information is coming out in the background, right? A lot of you people are not even paying attention to that, man. It says, let's go back to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there coming a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And as we read in Luke 8 and verse 17, it says, for nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. So all this information, right? For so long, Esau has hid himself, man. He was able to, ultimately disguise himself as, this righteous people, this perfect, good people. But in reality, he's the wicked. He's the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. And this is not a color thing. This is not it's not about, necessarily what you look like. Now, majority of the Edomites, right, are self-proclaimed so-called white folks, right? But you even have chocolate-covered Edomites, man, which are, really those tares, man, but nonetheless, right, you do have Edomites that look like, the other nations as well, man, but they're still the wicked. They're still Edomites, and they're being revealed at an all-time high, man, you can only keep something in the dark for so long before the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai brings it all about. And it's all coming out with the Epstein files and so on and so forth, showing you that these people are fucking evil, right? Because at the same time, they're coming after Venezuela, man. Killing innocent people, trying to steal the resources of a whole nation, you know? These people are fucking wicked as hell, man. And they need to be brought down. You know? They need to be brought down because it doesn't just stop at the, you know, them, you know, ultimately, damn, fucking sun. You know, it doesn't stop at, you know, just them, you know, ultimately, you know, them, you know, the Epstein files and whatnot, you know, being brought out that they're moles, and because the scriptures tell you in Hebrews 12 and verse 16, it says, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, right? We know that the self-proclaimed so-called white folks are the Edomites, you know, according to the scriptures, right? And they're profane. When you go into that word profane, it goes into outside the temple. So everything that they do is contrary to Yahweh Shem Shai, contrary to the words, you know, of Yahweh Shem Shai, which is the Bible, right? Completely contrary, man. You know, they're you know what I mean? Again, and they have something called the Talmud, which ultimately, you know, outlines that they can sleep, you know, with a child. I think it's less than 9 years old. A 2 and 3 year old fucking child, they can ultimately pop that child, man. You know, which is fucking disgusting, nasty, you know. But then want to come at, you know, you know, but then the other camps want to come at Great Millstone, starting with the elder apostles, and call us grapists and all this other shit, man. But we don't do that shit, nor do we condone it, you know. But these Edomites do. These Edomites are all about that, man, right? It says, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright? And we're in the, you know, he's trying to get it back, man. But it never was his, you know. It was never Esau Edom's, you know, birthright, right? To you know, to receive the kingdom, man. No, he got his birthright, right? Which is what? The fatness of the earth, man. You know, he got what Yahweh Shem Shai wanted him to get, you know. But here he is being, you know, evil as fuck, you know, acting like, you know, we stole it. We didn't steal it. He sold it. You know, but let's go back to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and I'll drop down. It says, verse 4, yeah, we'll just keep reading. Verse 4, it says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And we see that today, right? You got a Noah Yuval Harari, right, basically making the statement that, you know, God is dead. They're just ultimately trying to hide the body, right? As well as, you know, they've mentioned that they are the gods of the earth, man. You know, that they're ruling, that they're ultimately trying to, you know, because I seen an article the other day, man. I seen an article on the other day, and they're ultimately, it's called Project 2039 Immortality. Project 2039 Immortality, which is, they're saying by that time, right, or roughly around that time, they want to be able to make it to where they can change or take somebody's consciousness, right, outside of somebody's body, right, with their different organs and so on and so forth, or to basically clone their organs and put their organs and then move their brain or cut off their head and put it on a different body, and now they can just continue to live forever. That's their whole agenda, right? They want to be the Most High. They want to live forever. They want to be able to control people, right? Which is, they're ultimately trying to establish that through what? This RFID micro C-hip, which is the MO to the TV. This is how Esau's trying to do it, right? I always go back and I remember of Fast and the Furious. I think it's either Fast 5 or Fast 6. They have something called the God's Eye, right? I think it's Fast 6. They have something called the God's Eye, which is basically, you know, a surveillance system, kind of like Palantir or Gideon surveillance system, which allows them to tap into different microphones, cameras. Even if your, you know, device, whatever it is only meant for, you know, projecting sound like a speaker, they can switch the programming, right, wirelessly, and change it into a listening device, right? Change it into, you know, basically a microphone, if you will. You know, they can do all that, man. And that's what they're ultimately trying to achieve. And that's ultimately them trying to do what? Set themselves up as the Most High, right? And his agenda is being revealed that this is what he's trying to do. And see, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai set up prophets, right? The true prophets, right? Because you got Apostle Gabar, man, made a beautiful statement, and we're seeing it now, right? That you have a lot more false prophets than you do true prophets, you know. And a lot of these guys, man, that call themselves prophets, that call themselves leaders within Israel, they're not even touching on the MO to the TB, right? Which is the RFID micro CHIP. They're not going in on Revelations 13 and verse 16, 17, man. They're not breaking it down properly, and if they do, they're not breaking it down properly, you know. Most of these guys are avoiding, you know, this prophecy, man. But see, those that are in the truth, that are in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, are going to be doing what? Prophesying, man. Right? They're going to be prophesying, you know. as we read in what is that? Revelations 19. I think it's 10. Revelations 19 and verse 10, it says, and I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren, and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. Worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. So ultimately, those that are in the right spirit are going to be going into prophecy, right? And prophecy has it that this damn devil, or as states, right, as we're reading, right, that this damn devil is going to be revealed. His agenda, who he is, and his agenda is going to be revealed. And we seeing it, man, right? We know that he is the wicked. We know that Esau Edom, right? Biblically Esau Edom, right? But, you know, in today's world, right, he's called the self-proclaimed so-called white folks. Or you just say white folks, right? But we call him self-proclaimed because he's not, right? White is symbolic, you know, you know, for pure, right? For righteous, right? Black is symbolic for evil, wicked. And this is why he calls, you know, the Israelites, right? Really the darker, you know, of the tribes, right? The southern tribes, if you will, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. He calls them what? He calls them black. You know, calls them black. You know, which is ultimately a proverb and a byword. You know, at the end of the day, man. But nonetheless, right? He calls us black, but we're not black. You know, we're all different shades of brown. We even look like the Israelites have been scattered into all nations, and they look like the nations they've been scattered into, right? Which we call Israelite foreigners. You know. man, just think about this fucking devil, man. He's so evil. You know, you're gonna label a people, right, to be, you know, so-called black, and then you're creating a narrative about them, right? You create a whole narrative about a whole nation of people, right? And then it comes out that you're that nigga, you're the wicked, you're the evil one, you know. But then you go hard to try to ultimately, and you go hard as fuck, right, to try to point out that these people, right, are the wicked, right? This is why they're going over there, you know, to Venezuela and saying, oh, that they're bringing in drugs, they're bringing in, you know what I mean? Maduro ultimately released a lot of those druggies and killers and so on and so forth into America. We just got to return them back, and, you know, so on and so forth, you know, which ain't true. Right? Again, that's a cover up, right? This damn devil is directing your people's eyes over here, right? When in reality, all the information about him is coming out, man, and his agenda, right? Through the prophets of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the true prophets, you know. He's fucking evil, man. Now he's trying to ultimately ensnare you people, right? He's trying to push that agenda hard too. He's trying to get you people to take this charagma, right? Which will ultimately allow for him to be a perpetual ruler over you, and you be a perpetual slave to him. That's what his agenda is, man. You know, why would you want that? This man is proven. He has a track record throughout history, right? Of being wicked and being evil. Right? Taking lands that aren't his, right? Psalms the 49th chapter, right? They take lands and then name them after themselves, right? Like you got what? Now the Gulf of America, right? The Gulf of America. That's some bullshit, man. You know, trying to ultimately, you know, take Greenland. You know, that's what these damn devils do, man. They have a track record of doing that shit, man. But yeah, Jake is the wicked. Jake is evil. Now, hey, don't get me wrong. Jake is wicked as hell too, man. Right? Jeremiah the 5th chapter. What did I say? Jeremiah 5 and 28. It says they are waxing fat. It says they shine, yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked. When we know the Edomites are the wicked, man. Right? The so-called white folks, they're the wicked of the earth. But see, you got Jake, right? That ultimately, you know, Jake goes above and beyond with everything, man. You know? So you best believe it, in certain instances, yeah, Jake is more wicked than the Edomites, man. You know, got Edomites looking at him like, yeah, I'm wicked, but I wouldn't do that. You know? But yet, hey, Esau, you are still the wicked. You have a track record of being wicked. The Israelites, we don't have, you know, we have a track record of disobedience and getting punished, you know? And in this captivity, right, being wicked, but not like you damn devils, man. Yahweh Bashim El Shai's got a special judgment for you, you fucking devils, man. Like this whole system that y'all done built and put together, man. It's built and established on bloodshed. It's built and established on you know, trafficking, right? And that was the point I want to read on that Jeremiah. But I'm going to go to this in Ezekiel 28. It says, I'll start at verse 1. It says, the word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith Yahweh power, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I sit in the seat of God. Again, going back to the mentality, right? 2 Thessalonians 2 and 4. Esau wants to be the Most High. You know, this is that mentality, right? Being seen, right? It says, I sit in the seat of the Most High, and in the midst of the seas, which the seas, right, going back to Revelation 17 and verse 15, those seas are the people, right? It says, yet thou art a man and not the Most High, though thou set thine heart as the heart of the Most High. It says, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures, right? Because, you know, he's got the Queen's Vault, right? All these different Esau's got, you know, they're discovering new mines, right? That they're saying that's got kilometers long, right? Veins of gold deposits in the earth, man, and they're going in there and taking it all. You know what I mean? They're taking it all, right? That Trax NYC dude, you know, which I don't see him now since he got revealed. I don't see him, you know, really heavily, you know, doing any videos or anything like that, right? But he ultimately has a mine in Senegal, right, to where he's sitting there taking all the gold and the stones and so on and so forth, man, getting them for fucking pennies on the dollar and then selling them people for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, man, making a fucking fortune. And he's an Edomite, man, right? It says or he's an Ishmaelite, but hey, I wouldn't put it past him being a fucking Edomite or a Amalekite or something like that, man. I think he is, right, through the spirit. I think he is, you know, just speaking as a man, really. But you know, I think he's I think he might be an Edomite. But nonetheless, verse 5 here being the point, it says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. And this damn devil, right, you look at the different, you know, trafficking that he's done, right? You got sex trafficking, drug trafficking, right? Child trafficking, you know, which is the whole thing with this Epstein file, right? He had an island, right, called Epstein Island, where they ultimately would take these kids, right? They would snatch kids up all around the world, and those kids would end up going missing, and you know, end up on the you know that list of missing children, and they would take these children, right, and end up they call it achroming. I mean, it's you know, it has to do with adrenaline, and then chroming, right? So we call it achroming, right? Just for short, just to speak in code, man. You know, I don't want them to take down this video, but this is what these damn devils do, man. They take these kids, they scare them, right, to the height of their frightened, right, that they're scared, and then they ultimately, you know, sip on that, you know, the life, you know, the BLOOD, man. You know, drink it, which is evil as fuck, man. Which is all part of that, you know, that witchcraft. It's all part of that sorcery. It's all part of that wickedness that they've, you know, been perpetrating in the earth, man. You know, this is what they do. This is how they fucking move, man. You know, and for so long they've been uncontested. For so long they've been, you know, ruling and you know, able to do whatever they're you know, they've been doing behind the scenes. You know, nobody really knowing what's going on. But see, now all this information is coming out. These gutter rats over there over in New York, I think it's like Philly or something, right? They got actual, like, you know, what do they call that? Like tunnels and stuff like that they do rituals down there, man. I have a video, so I'm gonna play on the screen, man. You know, of an Edomite woman ultimately coming out and speaking on that, right? Saying that, hey, yeah, when they come out of those, you know, those holes and whatnot, it's because they were just doing, you know, these little, you know, rituals or you know, some of that degree. And I'm gonna play it right now. It's like 1 minute and 45 seconds.
I'm going to get religious on all of us for a second. There's a song we sing on the Sabbath, and it's called Ishes Chayil, and there's a line in it that says, Sheker Hachein V'Havel Hayofi, which means that we glorify lies and we uglify beauty, which means, let's say, we think that when someone abstains from promiscuity, that they're prude and that they're bad because they care about sexual health and they want to be celibate and they want to have meaningful sexual relationships. You get scoffed at for that. But somebody who goes and makes $50 million off of porn is going to be praised. So in the same right, in our religious culture, they're going to take the ugliness and they're going to hide it. They won't necessarily beautify it, but they're going to hide it. And the beauty of the people who have the courage to speak up, those people are going to get punished. Those people are going to get cursed. Those people are going to be found dead. Those people are going to be found blackmailed. Because there's like a whole underworld going on in these super religious circles where they have their own police, they have their own, if there's even landlord abuse, there's organizations, they have like there's a whole underworld going on of loaning and getting people out of trouble and lawyers, and it's good, but it's also bad.
You see, right? And she went and spoke on that. Now that wasn't the video I wanted to play, you know, but that ultimately reveals again more information about what these damn devils do. You know, the video I wanted to play, I think I might have, because I recorded at the same time that I recorded that one, but that was the one that I had seen. But basically what it was is there was a video of, I think it was a woman that came out and stated that yes, down in those, you know, those tunnels and whatnot, when they pull out those beds, you know what I mean, and you see the little blood stains and stuff like that, it's because they're ultimately doing sacrifices. Right, and in one it said ultimately that one of the sacrifices they were trying to do was ultimately trying to bring back, right, the Messiah, right, through basically necromancy. You know, bringing back the dead back to life, and they thought that that's how they were gonna bring back, you know, the Messiah. These fucking, man, they're fucking wicked, man. They're evil. They are the devil that the Bible speaks of, man, and they have to be moved out of the way. They have to be moved out the way, right? Going back to 2 Thessalonians, right? As the scriptures say in verse 7, it says, for the mystery of iniquity, right? Just dropping down. It says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out the way. Because the Lord said what? In Job 14:5, that he gave him bounds that he cannot pass, right? The Lord is allowing this damn devil, right? Because the Lord's long suffering, right? He's allowing this damn devil to stack up, right, that rap sheet, to get, you know, to do more and more wickedness and create more and more wickedness, and to try to establish his NWO, right? And then the Lord's gonna cut him down right before he hits that point, right before he gets, you know, to where Esau is like, I did it, I finally did it, you know, I did what I wanted to do, I got the birthright, I'm able to do this, that, and the third, and the Lord finna cut him down right before that point, right? It says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, which is the mouthpiece of the Most High, is what the prophets. Hosea 12:10, he speaks to the ministry of the prophets, right? So Lord Yahweh B'Shem El Shai is having his prophets out here, finding the evidence, finding the videos, and so on and so forth. And, you know, hey, fair use on that video as well. You know, Salakia, you know, they might end up taking the video down, you know, but we'll see, Lord will. But all that information, the prophets are sitting there going and doing all the hard work, looking up these articles, looking up, you know, these different events that are taking place behind the scenes, and revealing it through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem El Shai. You know, destroying this damn devil, right? And it says what? It says, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Right? Because Yahweh Shai is finna come and destroy this damn devil, man. Finna take him out of power. You know? Let's go to this in Sirach the 10th chapter. Sirach 10 and 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches gotten by deceit, right? By deceit. He's telling you that, you know, he's doing trade deals and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Like he you know, doing tariffs and whatnot, right? Getting money, bringing money in. You know what I mean? Be able to give people, you know, these dividends and whatnot. And, you know, America's this fucking, you know, this great place. You know, a righteous place. But in reality, behind the scenes, he's doing all different types of wickedness, man. And you people just don't see it. But now it's being revealed, man. At an all-time high, right? The government, bro, we were talking about thousands of videos, thousands of pictures of the government leaders, Trump and so on and so forth, being fucking put next to this fucking PDF file. You know? And people are okay with that shit, man. People are okay with it. All this information that came out, the average fucking American should be rioting right now, man. You know, you got riots over there in the EU by these farmers because of the government corruption. Why the fuck they ain't doing that shit here in America, man? Your leader is a fucking known PDF file, man. No, he grabbing females, you know, in public, in the face of the public. He's grabbing women's, you know, between their legs and shit, man. You know, he's calling people all types, you know, names and this, that, and the third, threatening people, so on and so forth. You know? And you people are fucking okay with this shit, man. Right? That's why this fucking land here and everyone that wants this place to, you know, to survive, or, you know, that want to ultimately, you know, help, you know, forward this fucking place, y'all gonna fucking die, man. Thus saith Yahweh Bashem El Shai, because the Lord finna take this place out, man. Right? I'll read it again. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right? Yahweh Bashem El Shai is bringing this damn devil down, man. Right? Starting, you know, from within, right? Economically, socially, financially, you know. The power of America is drastically waning when it comes to these different nations, even its own allies, man. You know? They don't have no influence over these people that, you know, were once allied to them, man. They have no power over them no more, man. These nations, especially the EU, they ain't fucking with America like that no more. America is basically, you know, this is standing by itself at this point, man. Israel, the UK, and America standing by itself. The rest of the world, 195 nations in the world, and man, 192 of them are against the trio, really the West, you know, basically, man, you know, from what you read and so on and so forth, right, in the news and all that other stuff, man. America, the UK, and Israel are all by themselves, man, you know, because they're wicked, they're evil, right? All these Edomites, right, even, you know, the so-called Russians and the so-called Europeans, so on and so forth, they're all wicked, right? But it's the American Edomite, the UK Edomite, and the Amalekites, the small hats, the tiny tops, right? The big noses that are over there in the Holy Land, right? They're the worst, you know? They're the worst, you know? But I want to jump to this right here because, hey, ultimately that ultimate transition, right, is going to happen, right, when Yahweh Shai comes, right? It's 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 24. Verse 24 being the point, it says, then cometh the end. The end of what? The end of Esau Edom's rulership, man. You know? Then cometh the end of Esau Edom's rulership, right? Let's jump to that. Well, 2nd Esdras 6 and 7, right? It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? Right? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So this is what's taking place, right? Right? Yahweh Shai is an Israelite, right? Jacob's synonymous with Israel, right? So what's going to happen? The Edomite is going to get pulled down, right? Pulled out of power, pulled out of that power seat, right? And an Israelite, right? The ultimate Israelite, right? Yahweh Shai is going to sit on that throne, right? 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 24 again, it says what? Then cometh the end, right? The end of Esau, Edom's rulership, right? When he shall have delivered up the kingdom to the Most High, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. And who's in rulership, who has power, and who has authority, right? We know to be the Edomites, right? The self-proclaimed so-called white folks. They're in power, man. And the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shah is finna bring them down. He's finna take them out of power. You know, quick, fast, and in a fucking hurry, man. Right? Because this is happening so fast. 2026 is already here. Right? 2026 is already here. We got 2 weeks until 2026. And it feels like, hey, Trump just got, put into office, last month. 2 months ago, maybe. Right? At most. Right? Everything's happening so freaking fast, man. And that's beautiful, too, because the Lord said what? Right? That those days will be shortened for the elect's sake, man. Right? And how many articles they came out saying that the earth is spinning faster? Right? Come on, man. The Bible is the only uncontested book in the entire world. Right? Nothing can match up to the scriptures, man, because the scriptures are a living word. Right? There's prophecies in the scriptures. What is a prophecy? A prophecy is an event that is going to take place in the future. Right? And we've been telling y'all for years that, hey, this America is going to be brought down, man. And now look at it. From the inside out, America's being brought down, and you people don't see it, nor do you care. The average person, man, especially Jake, man, is in that flood-like mindset, man, going back to the time of Noah, right? Drinking, just all about the fucking mirth, man. All about the damn mirth. Don't want to know what's coming because, that's negative, right? Don't want to fear monger. Hey, well, motherfucker, don't you want to know what the hell's coming your direction before it comes? So that way you can be prepared? That's what the prophets are doing, right? Spiritually preparing you people for what's coming, right? But y'all don't want to hear it. Y'all don't want to listen. That's cool. It's not made for everybody, man. Right? It's not made for everybody to understand what's about to take place, right? That transition of power, is going to happen. And it's not going to be, right? Anytime that there's a transition of power, right? There's always a war that breaks out, right? There's always a war that breaks out. You're watching all these different movies and we're reading the scriptures. When Yahushua comes, it's going to be the ultimate. Yahushua finna, hey man, it's the scriptures say that blood shall be up to the horse's bridle, that piece that goes in the horse's mouth, right? So that way they can control the horse. It says blood is going to be up to there. Yahushua, when he comes, man, Yahushua finna wreak havoc on all these motherfuckers, man. It's not going to be no happy-go-lucky, hey, can you move over so we can get in here? No. When Yahushua comes, he's kicking open fucking doors, man. Putting foot to ass to all these motherfuckers, man. Let's grab this in Isaiah, the 63rd chapter. Excuse my language, right? This is Isaiah 63, verse 1. It says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. So it's talking about Yahushua coming. When Yahushua comes, it ain't gonna be no small entrance. It's going to be the grandest of the grandest entrance, man, that any king can ever have, when he goes to war. Right? It says traveling in the greatness of his strength. Right? Now let's go to that real quick. In Revelations 19. And we'll start at verse 11. It says, and I saw heaven open, and behold a white horse, which white symbolic for pure, horse symbolic for what? Power. So pure power. Right? It says, and I saw heaven open, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. So when Yahushua comes, it's a war. Right? And we read in the scriptures that, that war, right? Garments, blood shed. I think it's Isaiah, the 9th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Right, yeah. This is Isaiah 9 and 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And that's talking about, you know, the Third World War, right? Where those nuclear missiles are going to be sent off, you know, and it's gonna, America's gonna be what? That lake of fire, you know. But the point being, right? Battle, right? Every battle of the warrior, right? With confused noise and garments rolled in blood, right? This is what Yahushua is coming to do. He's coming to make war, right? And he finna stain all his raiment, man. You know, as the scriptures say, Revelations 19 and verse 12, it says his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. Why? Because what? When Yahushua comes, he's taking all power, authority, and rule and consecrating unto himself, right? And that's what that, you know, many crowns is symbolic for, right? It says, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of the Most High. And that's talking about Yahushua, because Yahushua was the Word made flesh, right? It says, and the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, right? Meaning, man, what? He coming with that army, man. Traveling in the greatness of his strength, man. Right? And it says what? It says, out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fiercest and the wrath of the almighty power. Right? Let's go back to Isaiah, the 63rd chapter. You know? It says, verse 2, Isaiah 63 and 2. It says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garment like him that treadeth in the wine fat, right? When you go and you know you got a big ass freaking looking like a giant bowl, if you will, right? And you got a whole bunch of grapes, and then you're stepping on those grapes and you're smashing them. You got a garment on. Hey, the bottom of that garment, right, up to like your knees or something, is gonna be what? It's gonna be stained red, right? Like you got blood on your garment, man. You know, this is the depiction that it's trying to give you, right? It says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garment, and I will stain all my raiment. This is Yahushua saying that, man. This is Yahushua saying that, right? Because he's coming to make war. And a lot of you fucking people, man, especially you Israelites, man, are finna be taken out, man. Yahushua, man, Isaiah the 34th chapter, it tells you that he's gonna, you know, come and his indignation is upon their armies. When Yahushua cracks the sky, that's gonna be what? The Valley of Yahushua is gonna take place, right? Meaning all these nations are gonna be gathered into one area right over there in the Middle East, right? To fight against each other. But when Yahushua comes, hey, well, guess what's gonna happen, man? They're all gonna turn and fight Yahushua, but they're all gonna lose. Revelation's the 12th chapter, right? Second Ezra, the 13th chapter, starting at verse 1 all the way down to 11. Right? They're going to lose, man. There's going to be nothing to be perceived of them but there's smoke and dust. That's it. That's it. Yahushua he ain't coming to fucking play. You know? He ain't coming to joke around with y'all, skip to my loo. No, he ain't doing none of that shit, man. You know? It says, verse 4, it says, for the day of vengeance is in mine heart, right? In his mind. Yahushua waiting. It's been two days. Right? When someone ultimately, you know, kills one of your family members, or ultimately, you know, injures you in a major way, you don't just forget that shit after a day or two. No, man, you still hot, you still ready, you ready to go, right? You ready to go. You might lose a fight, whatnot. Hey, you ready to go? Hey, run it back, man. Round 2, let's go. You know, Yahushua ready to go, man. You know, when he comes, man, he gonna let out a cry so great, man. It's gonna be cry so great. It says, verse 4, for the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Right, it says, and I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore my arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. Right, and that's talking about Yahushua, right? It says, and I will tread down the people in mine anger, and make them drunk in fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Right, Yahushua finna, man, call Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, man, for what's about to take place. Right, this damn devil has been doing nothing but wickedness in the earth, man. He needs to be brought down. You know? What does it say? I know it's in Jeremiah. You know, because he destroys the earth. 25. That's 51. Oh, that's fire. Yeah, because I mean, hey, when Yahushua comes, man. When Yahushua comes, it's gonna be it's gonna be a fucking massacre, man. You know, and Lord will, while we're part of the elect, hey, we're gonna see it, man. Hey, we might even partake in it. We might partake in the what is that? The unthroning or the dethroning of this damn devil, man. You know, because we know when Yahushua comes, man. Hey, we're gonna get the, Lord will, we're part of the elect. We're gonna get delivered. Right, our bodies are gonna be changed. You know. And the Lord's going to send us out, you know? Right? That's pursuant to Jeremiah 16 and verse 16. You know? It says, behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Yahweh, right? And they shall fish them. And right now, hey, we're those spiritual fishers, man. You know? Casting out that net, gathering the good and the bad, right? Casting out the bad, right? Which, Yahweh Bashem El Shah is casting out the bad, but nonetheless, our job is to do what? To fish them, you know? Whoever bites on the hook, man. We reeling them in, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem El Shah, you know? So we those spiritual fishers, man, you know? But it says what? It says that after will I send for many hunters, right? We're gonna get changed, right? Did a lesson right the other day going into Philippians, the second and third chapter, talking about our bodies, right? Our vile bodies are gonna be changed and fashioned like unto Yahushai's body, which Yahushai is in the heavens, right? He's in that celestial, that spiritual body, man. You know, so he's got all power. You know, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is omnipotent, right? They're both omnipotent, right? All powerful, right? Obviously starting with the Heavenly Father, then Yahushai, you know, all powerful, man, right? And our bodies are gonna be changed, and we're gonna have the spiritual power, man. We're gonna be able to come after these damn devils and man, do some out of this world type shit to them, man. Scriptures talk about meditating terror, and we meditate terror, man. You know? It says, and after I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, out of the holes of the rocks, right? Meaning we gonna get y'all devils, man. You know? We gonna get you damn devils, man. Let me jump to this. Ezekiel chapter 25, and I'll start at verse 12. Right, it says, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah, right, by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them, meaning you did more than, you went hard, man. Right, you came after the Israelites, man. You touched the apple of the Lord's eye, right, and did more than you were supposed to. Zechariah 1 and 15, you forwarded the affliction, you know. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, right, I will also stretch out my hand against Edom, upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, right? And I will make it desolate from Teman, and the day of the dawn shall fall by the sword, right? It says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. Meaning we gonna be able to, get our licks in, man. When Yahushua comes and we get those new bodies, right? Those spiritual bodies, which contrary to the flavor of the week, right? You got, the priest Isaac Mawath likes to call them, right? Beavis and Butthead, right? Hakan Hassad from Genesis, formerly a Sakari. They're saying that the heathens are going to receive those glorified bodies. They're not. Nowhere in the scriptures does it say that, man. Nowhere, right? But nonetheless, verse 14, it says, I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. So, the Lord finna allow us to get our licks in, man. When Yahushua come, yes, Yahushua is gonna do majority of, the killing and the removal of these heathens out of power. But the Lord gonna allow us to get ours in too, man. And you damn devils, man, y'all better fucking, man, y'all better tremble in fear of what's coming. Because you got brothers, man, that they got vivid imaginations, man. Especially these children. I know my kids, they got vivid imaginations, man. They be sitting there playing for hours, come up with a whole freaking story and a half, can create a whole movie, in an hour. Easily, maybe 30 minutes, create a whole movie, You got bros that have the same, ability to imagine those things, man. You know, you damn devils are fucked, man. You know, and we can't wait, right? Because at the end of the day, you've pushed so much wickedness in the earth, as the scriptures say in 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter, right? For wickedness hath exceedingly, right? When you exceed something, it means that there's a limit that is set, and you go far past that, right? Esau has pushed wickedness in the earth so much that it's far exceeded, man, than what was, expected, He's done so much, man, and he thinks that he's going to be able to get away. He thinks he's going to be able to establish his NWO, and that's it, right? He thinks that he's going to establish his NWO, and the Most High, he's going to stop and prevent the Most High from coming back, prevent the Israelites, the elect of the nation of Israel, right, from rising to power, and all that. He thinks he's going to be able to stop that. You're not going to be able to stop that, you fucking devils, man. The Lord finna get your recompense, man, for everything that you've done. Right? The Lord said, what? He will not at all acquit the wicked. Right? There's nowhere that you can run. There's nowhere that you can hide. This is Amos, the 1st chapter. And I'll start at verse 11. It says, thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. You ain't going to run from it. There's nothing that you can do that's going to stop that punishment. Right? It says, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever, right? He didn't show no mercy, no pity, right? Whereas it says in James 2:13, he shall have judgment without mercy to him that have shown no mercy, right? Esau ain't shown no damn mercy. He ain't show no mercy, not even to his own self. Like, think about that. That's ultimately happening over there, right? A lot of information came out and has been coming out that those shooters over there at Bondi Beach, that they ultimately, are possibly, small hats, man. They're possibly the Israelis, right? There was an inside job, if you will, and they're killing their own fucking people. They don't even have mercy on their own people, right? Scriptures say that he that doeth, or matter of fact, let me grab this. This is Sirach, the 14th chapter, right? If he do not good unto himself, to whom will he do good? Let me grab it just to prove that point. This is right. Oh, this one's heavy too. This is Sirach 14 and verse 7. I'll start at verse 5. Right, verse 5, it says, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods, right? So if you're over here being evil to your own people, right, who are you going to do good to? Right? And we know that Esau, Edom, the so-called white folks, they're not good. Show me a time in history where these people have done good unto anyone except themselves. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. Right? A lot of this history that's, the history of America, hey, that shit's rooted in evil, deception, and lies. This America was established, on the bloodshed of other nations, mainly the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. You're not going to find, yes, you can find history that supports, right, the building and establishing of, an Edomite nation, but yet again, it was built and established through wickedness. Come on, man. It says, there is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. And if he do good, he doeth it unwillingly, right? And at the last, he will declare his wickedness, man. So it's, at the end of the day, these damn devils, they're wicked as hell, man. They have to be brought down. Right, because they're the ones that are literally pushing the wickedness in the earth. Sirach, the 10th chapter, right, starting at the 2nd verse, just hitting the point. It says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. So if you got somebody that's the head, of a country, right, and the information about this man is coming out that he's a fucking, a PDF file, right, that he messes around with fucking children, and all that other shit, then guess what? Everybody else that ultimately condones that man being in power, you know, that voted for that man is wicked as hell too. You know, that's just by fucking default. You know, and those same people would say the same thing about us. Oh, well, if you follow this man, then you just, you know, you're just like him. You know, they would say that. So if you would say that about us, why can't we say that about you? You know? But see, Esau, he's the biggest hypocrite, man. He's the biggest hypocrite. But see, the scriptures say that the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment, man. You know? A moment. When you look up that word moment, right? Let's go ahead and grab it. And we'll close out right there. You know? I'll bring out the scripture first. So, just bear with me. Right? This is Job 20:5, right? It says that the triumphing, matter of fact, verse 4. It says, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment, right? Let's look up that word moment, right? Moment. It says a very brief portion of time, instant, right? A moment, a minute, right? It says short time, right? The short time, temporarily, so far as the near future is concerned, you know? So these damn devils, man, they finna be brought down, you know, with the fucking quickness by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, man, you know? They finna be brought down, man. It's finna be beautiful, you know, how Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is gonna do it, right? And thus, you know, thus saith the scriptures, man. What it's gonna truly look like, man, we really don't, you know, have any idea, right? We don't know the day nor hour, what exactly it's gonna look like, right? We just have, you know, as the scriptures say, we know in part, we prophesy in part, man, you know? So, hey, Lord will, you know, it was edifying. Lord will, you know, it was straight to the point, man. As I'm speaking, they got a military, you know, airplane, man. Hey, man, Esau always doing something, man, you know. But Lord will was edifying. Lord will straight to the point, face the east, and give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of the great millstone. The water Yahweh Shem El Shah putting the spirit on me to come out here and do this, man, to prophesy this gospel, this good news, because it certainly is some good news, watching the fall of our enemies, man. You know, matter of fact, I'll close out with one more precept, man. You know, that it's a joyous thing when a man shall see the fall of his enemies. You know, fall enemy. Somebody created some nice beat over there, right? I know it's in Sirach. Bear with me, Babu Shah. It says, yeah, right here, Sirach 25 and verse 7. There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. You know, and we in that time where our enemy is falling, and we watching it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim El Shah. So again, call Lord Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Again, double honors to the elder apostles, elder bishops, the elders of the great millstone. Till next time, say shalom.